and welcome to another fine edition of On the Spot. My name is Ronnie Wiley. To my left is, and I want to say this, Emmy award-winning, and you can tell by the way we dress that he's an Emmy award winner and I'm not.
You're very kind.
Matt McCutcheon. Matt, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you. Great to be here.
You know, I forget, I think it may have been one of the Suman boys, but somebody had mentioned to me, hey, we got a guy from Connersville that's on THR. And so I went on your page and looked it up, and I thought, sure enough, he is from Connersville. Before we get to where you're at now, let's get to where you're from, obviously from here in Connersville. When did you get bitten by the entertainment bug?
You know, entertainment, just more so the news. You know, I actually grew up more specifically in Bentonville, and when someone says, well, where are you from? And you say, well, I'm from Bentonville. No one knows where that is. I always think of Walmart with Bentonville, Arkansas.
Right, yeah,
so,
yeah, exactly.
You always get that kind of, misidentification. And I say Connersville, and people are kind of like, still don't really know. But as soon as I say Richmond, they know Tom Raper RV.
Right, exactly.
So whenever I lived in Louisville or Fort Wayne, that's always where people knew Richmond was from Tom Raper RV, and those advertisements that are all over the area.
All over the Midwest.
More specifically, Bentonville, which is a town of 50 people. And what's really unique about growing up in Bentonville, you're kind of divided up among counties. So had a Wayne County phone number, Fayette County Schools,
and Henry County
Electricity. Right. So we're completely divided up among all these different counties, which made it really unique because calling school friends would be a long distance phone call. We're at 478
we had that,
825, 827, I think even 829 down here in Connersville. So, you know, it was really unique, just kind of the divide that there was growing up. But grew up in a very small town, and you know, farming is very prevalent in not only in Fayette County, but especially out in Bentonville.
Absolutely.
And farming wasn't really my interest. You know, I was definitely, intrigued by like the big combines and like how everything went. And, you'd have, as a little boy, like watching how everything would go with like the big rows of corn getting all plowed down and things like that. But I didn't have a big career and a really big interest in that. So I was always
Is that where your family came from, the farm?
Yeah, we lived on a farm. We did not farm. And that's where the interest in television kind of began because, you would watch these news stories, and it was interesting how, 1 minute a news story could be a small town, then a big town, then across the country. And it was just interesting how all that kind of flowed from one place in the studio from, Indianapolis or wherever. Because growing up, we could watch Dayton, Ohio, we could watch Cincinnati, and also Indianapolis. Yeah, so we could watch all those newscasts back in the day.
And especially back then, there was no time change.
Exactly.
So we could watch Dayton and then turn around and watch Indianapolis, kind of back to back. So back then, you had that interest at a young age. When did you decide to pursue it?
I think the sort of first memory, and there's a picture, but my mom keeps looking for it and can't find it. I would take the state map of Indiana out, like the huge maps that you get, nowadays are so obsolete with cell phones, like so many things are. And would put it in the living room chair and would kind of point to it and try to mimic the weathercasts that you would see on TV. And that's really how it kind of started about 6 or 7 years old, just doing something as mundane as that and always watching TV news. And then the great thing about Connersville and Connersville High School is the CHS Today program with Joe Glowacki, and that's really where it all just kind of came to a head, and I got my first real taste of it. And what's interesting now is, everyone is a broadcaster. You've got your cell phone, you've got your Facebook Live, all these different things that anyone can do the news or have an event unfold and just do it live right there with their cell phone. We didn't have that when I was in high school, back in 1999, 2000, my senior year. So everything was still very much, technically involved, the big cameras that you had to have and things like that. So that class really gave me my first opportunity at just what it's like to be a part of a newscast, whether you're behind the scenes as a producer, a director, or running the camera, being the reporter, the anchor, whatever. I mean, every week you rotated and got to do something new, and you really got your first taste of it all, and on top of that, it was live.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that when I was a kid, I didn't have the grades for CHS Today. I wanted to do that, but my main thing was radio, and I liked the entertainment aspect of stuff. You mentioned about news reporting. There's a different skill set from being a reporter, being, kind of non-biased, telling the story. I always thought reporters are more storytellers than I would be as an entertainer. You have to, give the facts. did you do a lot of writing as you grew up to kind of write the stories on your own? I know you practiced with the map. Did you do any writing of your own stories?
Well, it's interesting you mention that because there is and there isn't entertainment value. I mean,
Well,
you don't want to have like this
sure.
completely boring report. So you have to look for the ways to make it interesting
Mm-hmm.
and keep people engaged. Because the thing that we're always told is when you're watching, let's say at 5 p.m.,
Mm-hmm.
we're battling so many things when you're tuned in. You know, you're cooking dinner, you're
Right.
looking after your children, all those different things where you may not really be glued to the TV and paying attention. So we
Right.
have to do something that is more entertaining along with the news stories. That's why you'll see some of these live shots that are really creative with a camera that's moving around and you're doing something very active and hands-on. So that's kind of the entertainment that you have to put into the news as well. But you know, back to your point, absolutely, a lot of writing classes in English and creative writing. I remember taking a class with Mrs. Benz, whom I believe retired many years
I had
ago
Miss Benz,
from the high
yeah.
school.
Yeah.
And you know, through classes like that, that kind of supplemented what we were learning with Joe Glowacki's class. So kind of, you know, all came full circle with a lot of different skill sets I learned in high school.
So did you still have any of your old stuff from? Do you get to keep any stuff you did from CHS today?
Yes, still have the VHS tapes, which is
Oh, wow.
such a medium that
Right.
is, you know, almost extinct with like CDs
Sure.
before much longer.
Yeah, yeah.
But still have it on CD or VHS tapes, and actually, Glow gave me a couple of DVDs last time I was here, and so I've got that now on another medium that will far outlast the old VHS
Do you
tapes.
cringe at your old stuff, thinking, "Oh gosh," because I know I listened to old stuff when I was a kid, and I think,
You
"Oh,
do and you don't,
it's
because
terrible."
that's, you know, that's kind of like, you know, you when you were raw
Right.
and young and naive and,
Yeah.
you know, before you went through different lessons and
Right.
had different skills and things like that. So it's always interesting. And one thing that I never realized is your voice changes
Sure.
as you age, not
Sure.
just adolescence or puberty, which is the big change, right?
Sure.
But just overall how much you age kind of
Right.
impacts your voice. And I never realized that.
No, no, not at all. And people are amazed. They're not used to hearing themselves, their voice come
Right.
away from them. We're used to, or it come at them. We're used to hearing it. So I've always had people put headphones on and they go, "That's how I sound." And yeah, that's how you do. So when they hear themselves on television or on the tape, it's what we normally hear, and they sound the same, but we're not used to that. Tell me the differences. Well, obviously there's huge difference but this evolution of where you were in '99 to where you are now in the medium. How much has it changed? I mean, because it just Facebook Live's always been there, right?
Right. I mean, that's just, well, that's a new feature that's
Right, yeah,
popped
exactly,
up, gosh,
yeah.
in the last year. But it's been interesting to see the evolution of media and what's
Right.
changed and how, you know, you don't go to the store anymore to buy a cassette tape or a VHS tape. You don't buy those things if you're really looking for, you know, the newest song by someone.
Right.
You don't do that. You go
Pick
to
up
your
your phone.
computer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's the evolution of not just from different devices like those CDs to the computer, but like you said, it's now to the cell phone, and that's the big push. And you know, the newspaper industry just continues to struggle to kind of to deal with that. But fortunately, you know, with so many people with their cell phones, they can just watch what we do when they're on the go. They can watch the news if they're walking around or they're riding in a car or what have you. So that's become the big push, is to do so many things mobile first. And that's something that's been kind of a big adjustment. We don't wait for 5 p.m. to put everything online. We put it online as soon as possible. That way, if you're at work, you can watch it or read the story or whatever, you know, during your workday and still know what's there, but we'll have more at 5. It's still kind of raw and unpolished, but there'll be more coming up at 5 p.m. So that's been a big shift that's kind of changed with the past couple of years, because you would hoard everything,
Right, sure.
save it till 5 o'clock, and then it would go out there. But now it's just as soon as you can do it. So that's been a big push in the media just in the past 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and you guys have to be on top of the trends. You have to actually create trends. How do you guys do that? Do you have creative meetings, or do you just how do you create the trends like a Facebook Live?
You know, that's something that, you know, Facebook creates something and then you realize it and then you go for it. And then you might see where someone else in, say, New York or California did it. So how can we implement that and do that here in Indianapolis? And when is an appropriate time to go Facebook Live? Kind of like with the push alerts you get on your cell phone if you have the WTHR app, for example. You know, what's the appropriate story to put a push alert through, and what should the push alert sound like? So there are different things like that that you really have to think about as well, because it's so much more than just television now. It's the television aspect, it's the website, it's the social media aspect, the cell phone aspect. So it's a lot more than it was just 10, 15 years ago.
when you prepare your day, when you came in here, we talked 5 minutes. I complained about how fat I am, and then we came in and we're shooting it.
Right.
But you do more than just doing the reporting. I mean, you do more than just stand or talk, because I know now they're starting to stand more in front of screens. What's your day like when you prepare for your 30-minute newscast? And what else do you do at THR?
Sure. Well, my day, I work Tuesday through Saturday, so do the morning show those days. We're on from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m.
Oh, my gosh.
And it always amazes me, right?
What time do you have to get up in the morning?
Well, what amazes me is who watches at 4 a.m. But
People do.
I think there's such a surprising shift toward people who are getting up really early for whatever reason, whether it's going to the gym or their commute or whatever, or some people who are still coming home from work because life is so 24 hours nowadays. So there isn't a big audience at 4 a.m.
What time do you get up to be there at 4?
Yeah, that's the tricky part. I get up at 2:30 in the morning to go to work at 3 a.m.
So you go to sleep definitely in the summertime before the sun goes down.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when you do sort of the back timing, I should technically go to bed at 6:30 p.m.
Right, get up at 2:30.
To get up at 2:30 in the
happen.
morning. It's a delicate dance, to say the least, to make sure you're in bed at just the right time. So, after a while, you just kind of get into a rhythm. I think that you're always a little tired, but if you don't manage it, it can quickly get the best of you. So it's just a lot of managing. I mean, Chuck Lofton, our meteorologist on the morning show, has been doing it for, I think, 30 plus years. And
he's a veteran.
He tells you the exact same thing about napping is key, but it's different ways of napping, which is something I think, we take for granted. It's a nap, how scientific can it be?
Right.
But it's surprising I've noticed, for example, if I take a nap in my recliner, it'll be about 10 to 15 minutes. But if I actually crawl under the bed, I can nap for 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then that's how I do it. And I thought I was the only one. If I know that I just need to get a cat nap, it's in my recliner. Because if I sleep in my bed, and then I won't sleep the next day.
Right.
I'll be up till 5 in the morning when I got to get up at 6. So it's amazing how we're older and our bodies do that.
And you really have to adjust. So if there's something I want to do at 8 o'clock at night when I technically should be in bed, I'll try to take that long nap. That way I can get some rest at least, and then go to the event, and then go to bed and sleep maybe 4 hours and go to work. So it is a trade-off, but at the same time, I love it.
Well, you love what you do.
Yeah, and it's I think more fun personally on the morning show than to be on the 5 p.m. or the 6 p.m. or the 11 p.m. because we're starting your day. And so there could be something that's happened since you slept that may be good or bad, but we're bringing that to you. We're the first piece of news you're getting that day, and that's exciting. Plus, we get to do so many fun things. For example, I look back at this summer and I got paid to go to roller coasters or to amusement parks and ride roller coasters, and just sort of do different reports on going to Kings Island versus going to Kentucky Kingdom and things like that you wouldn't really get to do on an evening shift. But we have to have some fun on the morning show because you don't want to just wake up and get jolted by sad story after sad story. So we try to have a mix, a balance of fun and serious. And so I did a whole report, a whole series on amusement parks, and that's something that was great fun, and it kind of makes getting up at 2, 3 in the morning worth it.
Yes, absolutely. I'm a big Kings Island fanatic. I go thousands of times a year, and I got to get a hold of John. Maybe we could do somebody to a Kings Island thing. And again, when you're doing something you love, since you were a little kid, it beats working. Absolutely beats working. To me, hey, you sold me. I mean, gosh, Kings Island, going to Kentucky Kingdom, riding roller coasters, that would be like the apex, what I love to do the most combined. What else? What other fun things have you done on the air?
I've been live in my bed before, which no one ever thinks you're going to have an event like that. But we were doing a story on sleeping for back to school, which it's hard to believe we're already in that rush.
Yeah,
but
that's unbelievable.
With everyone going back to school, the question is, how do you kind of get in the rhythm of going to bed and going to bed early, and how much sleep should my child get, things like that. So we did a report live in my bedroom, which is something I never expected would happen, never expected to be there. But that's, again, kind of the fun, memorable live shots compared to just standing somewhere saying, hey, here's when you should go to bed. So there are just different fun things like that you get to do. Gen Con, I mean, Indianapolis is huge for having different events and different shows like that, and Gen Con is one of them. And I put on one of the most ridiculous leather outfits. I mean, it weighed, I think, 10 pounds, and I'm just completely swallowed up by this leather apparatus that was some, sci-fi character. So
Wow.
there are always different things like that we can do that are fun. Of course, cooking segments,
Oh,
everyone loves
absolutely.
food.
Yeah, well,
So
you
those
can
are always
tell.
fun and memorable
Yeah,
when
right,
you are doing a
right.
food story.
Right.
Ferris wheel, riding that live at the state fair, and doing different things with the farm animals. I walked a sheep around for a while, which learned they're not as
I've
calm and
stood in the pig
docile
pen.
as you would
Yeah,
expect.
right. Yeah, right, yeah. I stood in the pig pen this year. That was kind of interesting. Amazing. I mean, the stories that you can tell, the things that you have seen in your life. I'm sure you can write a book and really keep writing forever, because the story is never not ending. I mean, you're keeping it going. Talk to me about your career. When you went to college, of course, and this is what you majored in. When you got out of college, did you have job feelers out there looking for jobs for you? Or, I mean, how did you go about getting a job?
Television is one of the most difficult careers you can break into.
Oh, absolutely. I was in radio. It's the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, there are only just a few stations in a certain market. And, looking back in, Indiana, there are 4 or 5 television markets and anywhere from 2 to 4 stations in those markets. So the field is incredibly limited, whereas if you work in a restaurant, I mean, every city, few communities in between, and they all have restaurants.
Right.
So it's not at all difficult.
We have 3,000 here in Connersville.
To break into a food career. But, it's so difficult in television to do that. So went to college, and it was all about internships and getting out with not only that, but trying to do job shadowing programs. And that's something we did through Joe Glowacki's class at CHS Today. I actually job shadowed out in Indianapolis at Wish TV in the weather department. We got to spend a day out there. Ryan Sherwood, who works with the police department here,
I remember.
Sheriff's Department. He and I went out to Connersville. We had our big day out there. Drove the wrong way on a one-way road in Indianapolis,
that's always
freaked him out, I'm sure.
That's easy to do in Indianapolis.
But we got to go and have that experience of what it's like, in a TV station, and to see everything come together from start to finish. And so that was, a great, memorable moment. So I would say it's all about trying to get those connections, those job shadowing, those internships, things like that really kind of give you a feel for what a day in the life is like. So I did that. I did internships throughout college. I took 6 internships in Louisville. I took a station internship there, in Richmond at Kix 96, and then TV stations in Indianapolis and one in Columbus, Ohio. So really got a feel for everything, and being out in the field with reporters of what they go through and how they know what questions to ask and how you approach really, really sensitive topics. Because as fun as the stories are, there are so many that are just, tragic, that are heartbreaking. One I think that comes to mind for me was down in Kentucky. There was a little boy. His mom and dad were getting shot and killed inside of their convenience store that they operated. And at the age of 4, he knew things weren't going well. This man is coming in here with a gun, and he takes his little sister, who's about 2 years old, and takes her into a closet, shuts the door, and he lies on top of her to protect her from the gunshots.
Oh my God!
And that's just one of those heartbreaking stories, because no child should have to go through that.
Sure.
And how he had the instinct at that age to do something like that is just a story that, it's mind-blowing for me, and how his life changed in that instant, and how he had the instinct to do it. So, that's a memorable story. That's not fun, unfortunately. So every day is kind of a mix of those good and fun stories.
Yeah, and you touched on a good point. We talk about the fun of riding roller coasters. We talk about the fun of interviewing celebrities. You do capture that human emotion. You bring that together. You bring that to the viewer. How are those assigned? Do you get to pick these, or does your news director say, "Okay, Matt, you got to go cover that one. Bring me back something"?
It just kind of depends on news of the day, what's happening that day. So we have a meeting every day. We talk about different things that are going on throughout central Indiana, not just Indianapolis, but Fayette County, Henry County, all these different areas where we have obviously news, and they watch Indianapolis stations, and then we decide to go from there, which story has the bigger impact or the bigger emotion or things like that, and then we just go out and gather the news. And it's never easy to go to a family member who's lost someone dear to them and talk about what happened. And I did that here in Connersville. I believe Cody Day had gone to Purdue University and,
Oh,
and
yes,
passed away
yes. Yeah, I
in the
remember that,
fire in a
yeah.
building there. And
Yeah.
you know, that was a trip to Connersville
Sure.
and knock on a family's door that
You didn't
never
wanna make.
wanted to make.
Right.
And they were gracious enough to let us in and share a lot of memories. And
Right.
it was kind of took me back because so many of his memories were on the football field
Sure.
here in Connersville. So fortunately, I have been able to come back for good news stories here in Connersville, touring the Wayzata factory about a year or two ago. And you know, that was something that was great to see how it transferred from
The big,
Ford,
yeah, right,
Philco, Visteon, all those different
Right.
names through the years, sat empty, and it was such a huge beacon of hope that never happened with the automaker,
Yeah. Carbon Motors.
Carbon Motors,
Yeah, right.
and then to see it actually have life in it as Wayzata. So that was great to see how it kind of has come back to life. And there was a marking on the floor, I remember, that was really interesting about all the different parts that they would put into one of the parts that Ford used to make, and there's still that kind of outline
Oh, right, yeah.
on the floor. So you know, it's interesting kind of see the past and the present, and of course you just hope that it blossoms up
Absolutely.
with more jobs.
So when did you had a full-time job in Louisville, or were you just interning there, or was that your first job out?
So to kind of give you the back line, I went to Franklin College, a small school, about 1,000 people in Franklin, Johnson County. So it's about 30 minutes from Indianapolis. Great, you know, location for taking
It's a
internships.
beautiful,
Yeah. But I know everyone goes to Ball State. That's kind of
Right.
the stereotypical school for communications. But for me, it was all about the writing, the interviewing, that aspect compared to the camera and the behind-the-scenes
Sure.
activities, which, you know, Ball State is great. I mean, they have impressive facilities
Right.
for that. So that's how I ended up choosing Franklin and did my internships while there in the summer. You know, in the summer I would live in Louisville, interned there, had a part-time retail job to pay the bills and everything, and so did that during the summers.
Did
Retail.
Retail.
Sell,
A story in itself.
sold mattresses.
Oh,
which,
okay, yeah,
another
yeah,
story
yeah.
there too.
Yeah.
Got paid to jump in bed with people.
Oh, they. Wow.
As odd as that sounds, but that was a sales gimmick that we
Yeah, there
were
you go.
taught.
Yeah,
You know, you get people in this king size bed,
Right, yeah.
and you know, if you run and jump in the bed with them, this really expensive bed in particular, they won't feel it because it has a high coil
Right,
count,
sure.
so they're not
Yeah.
going to feel that
Right.
that movement. So that was a sales technique from back in the college days. But after college, went up north to Fort Wayne, started as a producer, which didn't have a huge amount of interest in, but it's your first foot in the door, and did that for about 6 years, reporting, anchoring, producing, all of that. Then went to Louisville, and from Louisville came to Indianapolis in December of 2013, just in time for the record-breaking winter that year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in Louisville, it would snow, and in a day it would be gone.
gone.
We never really had the significant amount of snowfalls that I remember specifically having here in central
Right.
Indiana. And I remember I moved in December, and it was 50 degrees, and I thought, great, you know, these mild winters
You
will
brought-
continue.
yeah, you
And
brought
then
the
2
mild
days
weather,
later, nonstop winter, snow, ice, all of that started.
So when you came back, I mean, you had this feeling of home. I'm sure, and I don't know how you did. When I was a kid and I knew radio is what I wanted to do, I had a list of all the stations I wanted to work at. Is that something you kind of had? Did you always have your eye on Indianapolis market?
Always. It was always a goal to come home. You know, this is the station we grew up watching. This is the market, Indianapolis market, that I grew up watching. And it was always a goal to come home, and especially with my parents' health. My parents, obviously, like everyone, are getting older.
Right.
And my mom's had some heart issues. So getting home and being closer to them was a big priority. And everything just kind of happened at the right time, that the job came open. I had wiggle room in my contract to leave and come up to Indianapolis. And so it couldn't have worked out better, and
Perfect.
It's been great being close to home and just being a 40-minute car drive home to see my parents and family and friends back here.
Yeah. So Betsy Ross, of course, she was in Cincinnati, THR. Did you ever have any communication with her?
Actually, I did not. I know that she's done a lot of different things here in Connersville, but personally, I have not had any communication with her. But it's so interesting just how small the business is.
Right.
It's only a matter of time before
sure.
you meet someone
Yeah.
who's been in a different community or a
Right.
different market, and everything just kind of comes.
Life has a
comes full
6-degree
circle.
separation.
Yeah.
Radio, television has one.
Yeah.
You talk to one person, though. Oh, I know Betsy. I used to work with her, and yada yada yada. I mean, that's typically how it goes. So up in Indianapolis, you feel comfortable. What all do you do? How many hats do you wear in your job?
It just depends. The morning show, like I said, it's really unique. It's sort of the most unique show I think that we have, because typically if you're working the evening shift, you get your story in the morning, you go out, and that's what you do. The mornings could be a variety of things that you've set up the day before, something that's breaking news.
So you're not just always in the studio. You run out too.
Oh yeah, always a wide variety of things that we do in the morning show. So typically do that, and then fill an anchor on the noon show, and then just kind of depends where people may be vacationing and fill in around. But typically on the morning show, and love it. The hours are a challenge. It's always a challenge to try to get 8 hours. I'm lucky if I get 6.
Right.
So try to sleep on the weekends. But it's very rewarding, and it's great to come home and like see these different communities that I remember going to when I was a kid with my parents, or we went to this particular restaurant, and here I am reporting about a big expansion or something like that. So it's great to see just how much has changed for the better in different communities.
Since you're from this area, does your news director say, "Okay, Matt, you pretty much have this area"?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who do you know?
Yeah,
who can you call? And then I'll bring stories to the table that they're like, "Oh, we didn't even know anything about that," or "How did you know about that?" And it just kind of, a couple of people and things like that. So there have been some stories like that where it's come in handy, and that's part of the great thing about being home.
Right. Yeah. Well, that, and you get to now. How many? Again, I've seen you on TV many times. I just had no idea. When you come back, do people recognize you from TV?
It depends whether it's in Fayette County, in Connersville, or Bentonville, or out in Indianapolis. I think my most memorable story of someone recognizing me is I made the mistake of going to the mall on my lunch hour in a suit, and so instantaneously they think that you work at the store. So this woman stops me and says, "Excuse me," and so I thought, "Oh, here we go. Where's the pots and pans, or where's the bathroom?" So I'm going to get one of those questions. So I'm preparing to tell her, "I'm sorry, I don't work here." So she says, "Excuse me, do I know you?" And I thought, "Oh gosh, that's not at all what I was expecting." So now I'm trying. This is when I just started reporting, so I'm trying to think of something to say that's not rude or arrogant or something. So then she gets right in my face, and she goes, "Do I know you? Are you a friend?" And I go, "Oh my gosh, this woman's really animated." So now I'm trying not to bust out laughing at her, and then she realized, she goes, "Oh, you're on TV," and she runs away. So I never got the chance to say anything to her, because she gets so embarrassed, she just takes off. So it was a one-sided conversation. I feel so bad because I never got to say anything to her. She ran away before I could even say anything. So, sometimes there are moments like that where someone may recognize you. It just kind of depends.
Mentioned earlier in the show when I introduced you, Emmy award-winning. Tell me about that. Tell me about the experience. How did you get nominated, and what was it like to win?
There are a variety of awards in the business, from Associated Press Awards to Society of Professional Journalists, and then it kind of goes up from there, Emmy, and then of course the Murrow Award. And Murrow is kind of like the heavy-duty investigations. For the Emmys, there are 2 Emmys for 2014 I was nominated for, and that was continuing coverage and team coverage. So it was kind of a group of us who had done different stories on one particular topic and got submitted you can submit anything. You can submit dozens of things, and 1, 2,
do you
0
submit it, or
will
does
make
your
it. It's an effort. So we all kind of put everything together and say, here's what I think I did really well this year, and then it all kind of gets funneled together, and then we kind of weed things out and then submit, and that report was submitted. Those reports for those 2 categories were submitted, and they won. So Emmys are actually based on a judge or a panel of judges from different markets. So it's reporters, anchors, producers, whatever, from different cities who watch and judge and assign a score to it. So it's kind of a peer panel, and ultimately won. So that was, something that you always hope to do, especially when you're when television's one of those great, things to have on the mantle and have, and fortunately won.
Were you guys at an auditorium, or was this something?
It's a traveling award show. So that one was actually in Indianapolis. The past year, I think, was in Cleveland. But it's kind of a tri-state area for the Indianapolis market.
Well, good for Matt. I can go on and on and on. I can go. This 30 minutes went by very fast.
Oh, wow, great.
Believe it or not, we're done. I can go on and on with you. I appreciate you taking the time to come down.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And I tell you,
Great
it
to be here.
enlightened
It's
me.
always great to be back. Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll see you next month on The Spot.